Another aspect, just to flip this around, is on the organization or as leaders, right? We have to be a little bit more empathetic towards our team members, right? And what I mean by that is we have to be flexible, because balance for, let's say, a young family is very different to maybe a single person who travels a lot. It's also very different to someone who's caring for aging parents. So everyone's balance is so different. It's not like a one size fits all, right? So as a leader, we have to be very empathetical towards everyone's situations, understand that, and make sure that, yes, when they have their downtime, they actually, we don't trouble them and send them Slack messages at like 10 o'clock in the night and stuff like that, just to add to the stress. I think that's important too, right? Being aware of that.
No one
Yeah.
likes to work under a workaholic, for sure.
So that's actually a nice segue like to the next segment about like common challenges, right? So Roshan, let me redirect this from that common challenges point of view. Is it a reality or a myth, right? Like, can we truly achieve work life balance slash harmony? Let's maybe like we can look at like the common challenges from an employer point of view and an employee point of view.
I think the biggest challenge we have now is what they call the always on mindset or culture. And what I mean by that is, because of our mobile phones and we have Slack or Teams or all this stuff on it, the tendency is there to receive messages or to check messages, right? Or to send a message at, oh, you get this idea at like 10 o'clock in the night and you want to tell someone, the tendency is there. And then what happens? It disrupts that person's routine or cycle or whatever. And you are tempted to check it. And then your brain is now somewhere else, being present with your family or doing what you're supposed to do with your loved ones, right? That I feel is one of the biggest challenges we have. And I know a few people where they don't install Slack on their phones now.
Right.
So that it's only there when they're on their computer, or you can just say, okay, this is now do not disturb time. There are various techniques, but I feel that is one challenge. I have a few more, but
I
what do you
would I would actually take a very valid point. I would look at it from a slightly opposite direction too, right? Like, so I think because of that accessibility you're talking about, like there could be like from the person who's doing it, there might be like an expectation on the receiving end too, right?
Yeah.
Just because you are sending a message in the middle of the night, if you are also expecting the receiving person or like the group to respond like in the middle of the night, I think that's where it becomes an issue,
Hmm.
right? Or like that's where it should not happen, or like that it should not happen. Like in my case, I have set expectations. Sometimes I do like to send emails in the middle of the night, because that's the only time like I get time to like respond to emails or something like that. So it's a matter of kind of setting the right expectations. Like you just like I mentioned earlier, like you find like the right time that works for you.
Hmm.
But the receiving part is like where you need to kind of be cognizant of, right?
Yeah, or set be disciplined, no, or set boundaries. Okay, I saw it. I'm not going to
Right.
respond now, or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I have had like when I used to work for one of the consulting companies, I have had team members reach out to me saying that like, hey, like you are sending these emails in the middle of the night, which creates like a bad precedence. Like it gives this impression that like we need to respond in the middle of the night. I said like I have never said that. I apologize, saying that like I should have set that expectation ahead of time. Just because I send an email, I don't expect like a response immediately, right? Like you can respond to me like the following day during like core work hours or whatever that is. So I think like you need to kind of find that balance from both sides, like what works for you, what works for others. And sometimes it's a give or take, trial and error. But yeah.
That's a very good point.
Talking about the challenges, I take this to myself is that I think there is a identity issue sometimes too. Like when we work too hard, that becomes you. Like if somebody asks me to describe who I am, I think about, my work right away. So I'm trying to change that narrative to say that, I'm a good dad or I'm an artist or something like that. So that I think that's where we start to see what are the trade-offs we've made with the work-life balance kind of lopsided. So I think work-life balance is different to everyone. And, if you're single, young, energetic, you wanted to go after that career, I think there is nothing wrong in, putting extra hours to get there. But when you reach a point, you start to look around and understand it's starting to hurt your health or or your family, then that's when I think need to take a step back and look at the work-life balance as a whole.
So if I'm to ask this question, right? Like, so let's say since we are talking about challenges, let's say we are in a on a project with a very tight deadline, right? Let's say there's a deadline coming up this Friday. Would How would we kind of handle this, right? Like, how are we going to handle like the work life balance, or like keeping work life balance in mind, and also knowing that like there's a target that we have to achieve at that point? Are like the family constraints, age differences, cultural differences, whatever, all these dimensions we were talking about, like how do we navigate through those to make sure in order to make sure that we are achieving that target?
So maybe I can take a stab at that. That's a good thought-provoking idea, right? Thought or question. I go back to that harmony thing. As long as it's not every Friday there's a deadline, right? If it's like once in a while there's a Friday deadline coming up, it's okay. You got to do what you have to do to get it done, right? You don't want to slip on that. And so hopefully our family and everyone would understand that, okay, this is not an everyday thing. We are putting a little bit extra work. If it is an everyday thing, that means there's some priority problem. Everything is urgent all the time. And that is something that has to be fixed. I mean, that's how I think of it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's true. I think this is where like the team culture comes into picture too, right?
Mm.
There might be like a genuine scenario that like one person may not be able to pull the entire weight just because there's a deadline, right? So you pitch in, or like you delegate it, or like you talk amongst like your team members saying that like, hey, like, if you take care of this for me, like I will take on that load like the next cycle, something that works, right? Because I don't think there's necessarily one template that we can follow. It's not like you can force like the entire team has to work like 16 hours a day just so that like we can meet that deadline, right? Like we have to kind of figure out like what works.
It's very sensitive when you're the leader and you're working in a team. It will not look good if the leader wants to take it easy while their team is working hard overnight to resolve a problem, right? Usually that's what happens to me. I feel like I want to be on that call for solidarity, right, with the team to see them through. I mean, I could just say, I'll check back with you tomorrow how it went, right? And there is a reason why we got here. We need to remember that it's not always bad, but we stood out somehow, right? But it's about how do we now kind of slow it down, but not entirely. It's hard to explain, right? There's no formula for it.